Hey guys, what's going on? You're listening to a brand new episode of Speaking Wrestling with Elvis Arroyo, and as always, I am your host, Elvis Arroyo, and this is episode 49, and on this episode, we are back from being off 1 week. We're going to look back at the Royal Rumble. We're also going to talk about Raw, Smackdown, going to give you guys what to watch for, also some AEW Dynamite talk, going to give you guys my MVPs and floppers of the week, so stick around for that. But as always, guys, a quick reminder that you can always follow us on Instagram at Speaking Wrestling, on Twitter at Speaking Wrestle. You can also email this podcast at speakingwrestling@gmail.com for any questions, suggestions for the show. Let your voice be heard. All right, guys, and like I mentioned at the top of the show, we are back after being off for 1 week. Took a little break after the Royal Rumble, and in that time, a lot of stuff has gone down in the world of professional wrestling, guys. So let's get into it, guys. Let's go back into the Royal Rumble, guys. What a great event it was from Houston, Texas. This was a great Royal Rumble. Not as good as last year's. I still think last year's Royal Rumble, going back to the Best of 2019 episode, last year's Royal Rumble was really good. But this one, man, it succeeded. It was a great Royal Rumble. The opening match with Baron Corbin and Roman Reigns all over the stadium. I mean, this was unbelievable. Usos getting involved. This is good stuff. I really like this. But let's get to it. The Royal Rumble matches itself are what really came out of this, and let's go with the women's Royal Rumble first. Charlotte Flair capturing her first ever women's Royal Rumble. I mean, how can you not have seen this coming at some point? You know, Charlotte is arguably one of the most greatest superstars in women's professional wrestling. Some might also argue that she's a little bit overrated and a little bit overused at this point. But, you know, Charlotte Flair gets it done. And what bigger name you want on the marquee for a WrestleMania matchup for the women's than, you know, Charlotte Flair. So you don't expect anything less from her. You know, definitely Charlotte Flair is a big time superstar. Her name, obviously the Flair last name, resembles a lot. But again, you know, Charlotte Flair was going to capture one of these at some point. You know, a lot of mixed emotions about Charlotte Flair winning the Women's Royal Rumble. But great match. I mean, this was a terrific match. We got to see Alexa Bliss open up the Royal Rumble, coming in at number 1, and Bianca Belair coming in at number 2, surprising everyone, making her main roster debut. And what an opportunity she was given here as she went toe-to-toe with some of the biggest names in the women's division in NXT, on Smackdown, and on Monday Night Raw. Good stuff from her. We got to see Beth Phoenix come back in there. We saw Mighty Molly come back in this matchup. Great stuff. I really love this. It came down to the very end, Charlotte winning it. Also, you know, Shayna Baszler. We got to see a preview of Shayna Baszler and Charlotte. So if there's ever a matchup between those two down the road, you know, it's definitely something that they can play with down in the cards. Shayna Baszler, I mean, like, where is she going to end up from here? We saw her drop the title over to Rhea Ripley on NXT, that final episode of 2019, and she shows up at the Royal Rumble here. So, you know, could she be showing up on the main roster? Who knows? But I definitely think it's time for her to elevate her game and step up onto one of these major platforms and go to toe with a Charlotte, a Becky, you know, for a WrestleMania matchup down the road. Who knows? But again, Charlotte Flair with a very impressive win here to win her first women's Royal Rumble matchup. And let's get to the men's Royal Rumble matchup. This was a very terrific match. I gotta say, the most entertaining Royal Rumble matchups. When you want to talk about some of the most entertaining Royal Rumble matchups, you go back and you talk about the great matchups in Royal Rumble history, like the 1992 Royal Rumble. You want to talk about the 1995, the 1997 Royal Rumble. You want to talk about the 1998. You can go on down the road. 2008. You can keep going and going. 2015. If that's even you know, a memorable one. It definitely is, but this one was just lights out all over the place. You know, Brock Lesnar to open up this matchup at number 1 was the right call, because you gotta admit this guy worked his ass off here. And for anybody that thinks that Brock Lesnar doesn't work, can't sell for nobody, isn't really into the business, you know, his heart's not in it, man, it's just performances like this that show you otherwise. You know, the guy, he's into this, and you can tell when someone is really engaged into what they're doing and they're really having a lot of fun out there. And Brock was having fun, and it was a lot of fun watching Brock Lesnar just throw every single guy over the top rope. I mean, at some points, you know, you thinking that Brock was going to get eliminated by someone, and I think that's what made it so much fun. But Drew McIntyre, who had the performance of a lifetime here in the Royal Rumble, and of course eliminating Brock Lesnar after Brock Lesnar received a low blow by Ricochet, which led to him receiving the Claymore kick and being flipped over the top rope. and eliminated, which then making Drew McIntyre the alpha male now in the Royal Rumble match, which led to him winning the Royal Rumble match and closing out what was a great Royal Rumble event. And Drew McIntyre, well deserved. I mean, this is somebody who, I've mentioned that if he is nowhere near any, WWE or Universal title in the year 2020, I mean, you really got to start asking questions. And, that's really when, you can tell that, they're really not making the right decisions that should be made at Drew McIntyre. Is a superstar that turned his life around after being let go from the WWE back in 2014 to, making his way around the indies and around the world, letting his name grow once again to get back here. And now he's won the Royal Rumble matchup, which guarantees him a title opportunity at WrestleMania. I mean, congratulations to him, not just the character that we see every single week, but the man himself, Drew Galloway. You gotta admit that this is to him is the biggest thing in his life right now. It's one of the biggest achievements, and it's only going to lead on to bigger and better things, and that could be the WWE Championship for the first time in his career. I hope to see that at WrestleMania. Good things come at WrestleMania to those that have stood the test of time here in the business and have been the constant and grinding to get to this opportunity. So good ending to Royal Rumble with Drew McIntyre going over. But I know much can be said about what's going on after the Royal Rumble. Of course, Charlotte Flair, she has yet to name who her next opponent will be, who she will challenge at WrestleMania. After winning the Women's Royal Rumble, she skipped on Becky on Monday, and then come Friday, she skipped on Bayley, which then led back to Monday night and Rhea Ripley making the challenge to Charlotte Flair for the NXT Championship at WrestleMania. Did Charlotte Flair answer the call? I mean, Charlotte Flair did show up at this week's NXT, but was interrupted by Bianca Belair, who is also facing Rhea Ripley for the NXT Championship at NXT TakeOver Portland in just a few weeks. So we might not even get to see a Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. I mean, it could be Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair. It could be a triple threat match. At this point, all three women are well deserved of their craft and of their position to be at the spot where they're at. So I can see it go down with one-on-one between Charlotte and Rhea or Charlotte and Bianca. And like I said, triple threat, I'm okay with that too. And as we did start talking about the Royal Rumble, we did talk about Roman Reigns defeating Baron Corbin at the Royal Rumble in a Falls Count Anywhere match. But we also got to talk about Roman Reigns getting the last laugh on Baron Corbin this past Friday night on SmackDown, as it was the Bloodline, Roman Reigns and the Usos defeating Baron Corbin, Robert Roode, Dolph Ziggler in a 6-man tag team match. The loser eats dog food, and of course the Bloodline came up with the victory. And just like Roman Reigns was hung up and handcuffed to the ring post and received the bathing of some dog food, Baron Corbin did as well, or was it some Hormel chili in that case? But this was a sight to see here. Really messy stuff here, but again, Roman Reigns finally, could this be the end to this Baron Corbin-Roman Reigns battle? I hope so. But it sure was a sight to see Roman Reigns getting the last laugh. And speaking of laughs, as Otis and Mandy Rose set up a date for Valentine's Day next week on SmackDown. Should be interesting there. But let's talk about what's awesome on SmackDown. And that's John Morrison and The Miz. John Morrison is on a roll since coming back to the WWE, and my God, the match that he had with Kofi Kingston on the Go Home show into the Royal Rumble was unbelievable. That's got to be one of my favorite match of the year so far. But the Miz and Morrison are back together, and they are the number one contenders for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, winning a Fatal 4-Way Tag Team matchup this past week on SmackDown. Now they are only one win away from becoming the tag team champions once again. But before we get there, we're going to get a special edition of the Dirt Sheet on next week's SmackDown. So it should be interesting there too. And this year's Royal Rumble did present us with another legend coming back into the matchup. This year it was MVP coming back into the matchup. MVP still looking good, man, and had a matchup the next night on Monday Night Raw against Rey Mysterio. But unfortunately, guys, that might have been MVP's final matchup in the WWE, as he went on Sam Roberts' podcast this week and let it be known that that indeed was his last matchup with the company. He wanted to go out with Rey Mysterio being his last opponent, Rey Mysterio being his son's favorite superstar right now. So I gotta say, man, M.V.P had a hell of a career. It's good to see him back in the Royal Rumble match, and I gotta say, man, he looks like he can go. But he's had a hell of a career in the ring. There's no regrets with what he left. And he looks like to be moving now into a role back in the locker room, an agent of some sort. And Angel Garza this week making his main roster debut on Monday Night Raw, filling in for Andrade as Andrade is out at the moment. But man, he made his debut and let it be known to the world that he is cousins with Humberto Carrillo. So very interesting stuff there, but I mean, he looked really good here. This is a good matchup. He went one-on-one with Rey Mysterio on the Monday night. What a way to make a debut for this guy. I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again every time he's on TV. This guy right here is definitely the embodiment of Eddie Guerrero. So it was quite a dynamic scene to watch him go one-on-one with Rey Mysterio. Eddie, of course, having just tremendous and great Hall of Fame matchups with Rey back in WCW and in WWE. So this was definitely a sight to see Angel Garza going up against a future Hall of Famer in Rey Mysterio. And speaking of an NXT superstar making his way up to the main roster, let's talk about NXT while we're at it. NXT this week was a great show this week. I got to say, guys, the wrestling was hard-hitting, as always. But that Johnny Gargano, Finn Balor, face-to-face, split-screen promo, great stuff. I got to say, Balor on the mic, since he's been a heel, has been tremendous. It's good stuff from him. He's been, tremendous on the microphone. But Johnny Gargano, man, Gargano can definitely deliver that passionate promo. A very, very passionate promo from him. This is going to be a very intense matchup from these two gentlemen. I cannot wait for NXT TakeOver Portland to see this matchup, but I can't wait to see also, the Broserweights taking on Undisputed Era for the NXT Tag Team Championships. That should be a great matchup. Dijakovic becoming the new number one contender in the past week to Keith Lee Championship should be a good matchup there, especially coming off a win over Killian Dane this week. Dijakovic, that is. Good stuff there. And the return of the Velveteen Dream coming back this week and attacking and ambushing Undisputed Era to make the save. Good stuff there. Velveteen Dream looking as good as always as it can look. Amazing stuff. NXT is looking good. Takeover on the way. Of course, we have Rhea Ripley defending the NXT Championship against Bianca Belair. NXT TakeOver Portland definitely looking to be a good show this month. But another good show this month is AEW's Revolution, and we'll get into AEW Dynamite talk right after this break. Hey guys, want to give you guys a quick reminder that you can subscribe to this podcast on YouTube just by searching Speaking Wrestling on YouTube. Hit subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell for every time a podcast is posted. And also, you guys can get in contact with this podcast over on Instagram at Speaking Wrestling and also on Twitter at Speaking Wrestle. You can also send emails to this podcast at Speaking Wrestling on Gmail. And you can also donate to this podcast at our Cashapp account. That's $ followed by Speaking Wrestling. Speaking Wrestling would like to thank you guys for the support. Now back to the show. Alright guys, and we're back, and let's get into some AEW Dynamite talk. This week's AEW Dynamite was live from Huntsville, Alabama, guys. And my only takeaway, guys, from this show, there's not much to cover other than high spots, high spots, high spots, high spots. It's a thing you notice right away when you tune into AEW Dynamite. You'll see that there's a lot of aerial assault going on in every single match. There's suicide dives, there's dives over the ropes, dives off the top ropes, dives out into the ring, dives on the top rope, out of the ring. There's so many of the flips and dives. And in this case, during the match of an 8-man tag match, which was a very good match, I got to say that the action was great. I got to say Butcher and the Blade are impressive, Good stuff from them. Young Bucks, boring as fuck as always. Kenny Omega, good. And Hangman Adam Page, really good. But I gotta say, guys, Hangman Adam Page takes a moonsault out to the outside was when everybody's just crowded around waiting for him to come down. And it looks like he hyperextended or twisted his knee, and he really wasn't, the same after that match, which always leads me to think that a lot of these moves aren't necessary. I mean, you got guys that shouldn't be taking these flips and dives, but they are in matches because it's what the fans call. It's what this style of wrestling calls for. And I just really think that it's, some guys don't need to do it. And a guy like Hangman Adam Page, who has a bright future ahead of him, who's going to be an AEW World Heavyweight Champion at some point, and if this company ever gets a secondary championship, you can for sure bet he's going to capture that championship. He's already captured the Tag Team Championships. He's already won Battle Royal after Battle Royal. He's already headlined and competed for the AEW Championship. He's already strayed away from the Elite. This guy is setting himself up to be one of the top guys of this company. He's already got a catchphrase with the cowboy shit. He's already got a gimmick. He goes out and drinks beer with the fans. He drinks beer all the time. This guy's got everything going for him right now. He's in some ways the total package for the company, but they're not really focusing on that right now. And you can't have a guy like him who you can invest so much of the company on him going forward in the future, doing dives that are unnecessary, because we've already seen too many of them by the time that this match was already there. We've already seen it, an SCU best friends match. We've already seen, we're seeing the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks in this match. You can testamentally assure that there is going to be more than a dozen dives and jumps all over the place, risking body and limb. And you can't afford to risk someone like Hangman Adam Page, who right now is on a roll. I mean, can you imagine Hangman Adam Page right now buckling his knee and being out for 8 months? That cowboy shit, that drinking gimmick, it's going to go away. Now, you can utilize him by, making video packages, having him show up, but you're not going to see him go out there and do his thing. Time's going to go by and other guys are going to pass him by, or time's going to go by and no one's going to get over. And you're going to wait and hope till Adam Page comes back healthy. Right now, AEW can't even get over 1 million viewers. Yes, they are beating NXT, and morally to themselves, they think they are achieving something by beating NXT by just 200,000 fans. Whoop-de-doo, big deal. You need to get your act together, because that's what's really going to prevail and take you forward. It's not about winning week-to-week rating wars with the other company. It's about prevailing, staying afloat. Yes, TNT just offered you another deal, which you are going to be extending for another 3-4 years on TNT. AEW isn't going away, but the fans will. All right, guys, and with that being said, it's now time for What to Watch. This week's What to Watch, guys, it's NWA Power and MLW Fusion. Those shows are both available for free on YouTube. Check those shows out. And it's now time for Performers and Floppers of the Week. This is where I give you guys my MVPs and Floppers of the Week. My MVP for the week, guys, it's Drew McIntyre, coming off the Royal Rumble victory and still being hot. He's over as hell right now with the crowd. Drew McIntyre is on a momentum right now. Can he be stopped? I hope not. And I hope this leads to a championship victory over Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. And my flopper of the week, guys, it's got to be Joey Janela. I just didn't really dig this match, and I'm not really digging where Joey's going with this character. All right, guys, and with that being said, I want to give you guys a big thank you for joining me on another episode of Speaking Wrestling. This is episode 49, guys. Be sure to subscribe to this show on everywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe on YouTube, guys. Follow us on Twitter at Speaking Wrestle, Instagram at Speaking Wrestling, and share this podcast with your friends. Repost it, retweet about it, guys. Your guys' support will help this podcast grow. And with that, guys, I'll give you guys once again a really big thank you, guys. 2020 is going to be a big year for Speaking Wrestling. And with you guys helping this podcast grow, we can do many things. So thank you guys so much. Have a great wrestling week. And we'll do it again next week with episode 50 of Speaking Wrestling. Bye-bye.